Cool. What's up, everyone? We're back. This is a bit awkward to say, but I just thought I'd filmed the vlog, so I've been chatting for like the last half an hour, and then of course I realised I hadn't pressed play on the camera, or record on the camera, so bitterly disappointing, but I will try and recapture what I was speaking about. I think of that as like a practice run. But yes, welcome back. We are here on Wednesday, the 12th of January 2022, and this is my new setup basically. So I've got a DSLR there on a tripod, got a microphone here, and yeah, we're all going, I think now. This one hopefully will work. Yeah, I think the main thing on my mind this last week has really been the show You, which is a Netflix show starring Penn Badgley as Joe Goldberg, who kind of manages a bookshop in New York, at least in the first season. And I think the show, there's 3 seasons I think currently, and it kind of charts his relationship with I think 3 different women. I'm not sure, I haven't seen seasons 2 and 3. But that's definitely the premise of season 1. He meets a woman called Guinevere Beck, who's an aspiring writer. And yeah, basically, like, this won't give anything away if you haven't seen it, but he starts stalking her on social media, and then like he meets her again, and then like kind of the show examines like his relationship to her, and then you quickly find out he's a psychopath. Like he's killed people before, and you know, it gets very dark and very messy very quickly. And I watched the first season of the show in 2018, which is 4 years ago. Again, I can't believe that it's been 4 years since 2018 began. And I was very gripped by the show then. I thought it was very interesting, but this rewatching and also watching a lot of interviews with Penn Badgley, you know, him talking about the first season of the show, it's very interesting to me, because you sort of learn that the show is really, the show is really an examination of kind of modern relationships. I mean, it's a very extreme scenario, obviously, but that's kind of what fiction kind of can do. Not can do, that's what fiction does a lot of the time. It takes kind of common themes, common human kind of practices, and just puts them into the extreme, just to kind of flesh out themes a bit more, make them a bit more visceral. And You is a very kind of potent example of that, in my opinion. You know, it's sort of like you have Joe, who's this kind of, I mean, he's psychopathic and obsessive, but he's also very charming, and like deep down there's like a real need for love, you know. It's just buried beneath his psychopathy and his obsessive personality, like his need to be in control of everything around him. So there's him, and then he meets Beck, who has her own kind of like complexes and kind of feelings of emptiness, and also craving love deep down. And that's kind of essentially why they connect, is because, well, they connect on a surface level because they're both very charming, they know how to kind of play the roles of courtship, but deep down the reason they end up being so bonded is because of that. It's because they both have a deep kind of trauma that means that they didn't quite have the love in their childhoods that they probably should have had and needed. And you know, Joe comes along and says, yeah, I'm going to be this perfect guy for you, and she kind of gets swept off her feet by him, and yeah, quickly it gets very dark and twisted. I mean, it's pretty dark and twisted from the beginning, but every episode gets more and more kind of fucked up, for want of a better, more elegant term. Yeah, watching interviews with Penn Badgley about the show, very interesting. I would recommend you go and do it if you haven't already. Particularly his interview with Stephen Colbert, who's an American late night talk show host, if you didn't know. the one with the glasses and the kind of funny ear. But I don't know when this interview was. It might have been about the first season, but it might have been more recent. He's describing how Penn, is very fascinated by the kind of public reaction to his character, namely that the character is very attractive. You know, a lot of people kind of fancy the character of Joe, even though he's blatantly a terrible person and he's a psychopath and a serial killer. And Penn Badgley finds this very interesting and hopes that the show will subvert that kind of tendency to find these people attractive in spite of their psychopathy and kind of moral or immorality. But I thought that was interesting. It's definitely made me see the show in a different way. But yeah, I would urge you to go and check out his interviews, because he sheds a lot of light on the themes of the show, and it's interesting just to see how, from a conceptual perspective, how he approached playing this character. You know, and it just, he doesn't spoil anything, but it just kind of goes, oh, I hadn't thought of that, or, you know, that's interesting. And then when you watch the show, you go, oh yeah, that is really interesting. Yeah, it definitely reminded me of watching that documentary series on Netflix about Ted Bundy. You know, and there's a section of that where, well, not necessarily a section of that, but quite a common theme of Ted Bundy's kind of serial killing career was, is it right to call it a career? I don't know. I guess so. You know, one aspect of it was how repeatedly people would meet him and he'd come across as this really, he's just a kind of normal white dude who's just like middle class, and he's charming, Ted, like, yeah, he wouldn't hurt a fly, you know. Pretty sure somebody might have even said that about him. He's harmless, Ted, he's just a nice guy, you know, just a straight collar kind of guy, you know. And meanwhile he's actually like abducting, raping, killing, and then sodomizing the dead bodies of women, to put it kind of succinctly. You know, a real kind of a real psychopath. And that was a connection to the character of Joe Goldberg in You that I drew when Penn Badgley was talking about that on the show, the Stephen Colbert show. You know, and I think that's perhaps, I would guess that's where he got a lot of his kind of not inspiration from, but there's definitely a connection to be made there, and that's definitely where my mind went. You know, how perhaps we're more naturally suspicious of, well, not naturally, but we're more conditioned to be suspicious of certain types of people in our kind of our social kind of environment. You know, this person. Sometimes it's racist, or sometimes it's this. And often it's just like the normal people who are actually the most fucked up and the most harmful. I think You is kind of like that. Though again, yeah, You is also about sort of, the damaging effects of, not damaging, the completely crippling effects of childhood trauma, and how people justify doing terrible things to themselves. You know, not doing terrible things to themselves, but they justify to themselves doing terrible things. That's a very common theme with Joe, which you learn more and more about as the season progresses, and I'm sure you'll learn even more about it when the show progresses in subsequent seasons. You know, it's like he's always telling himself, this person has to die, or this person has to die. I'm doing this to help you. I'm doing this to help the person that I love. And you know, it's that kind of psychopathic rationalization of evil. You know, so yeah, it's a very philosophical show. It's a very kind of fascinating show from a relationship perspective. How, like, you know, you kind of like Joe, because, you know, if it's been a while since you've seen him do something dodgy and he's just been charming and blah blah blah, you think, oh yeah, Joe. There's a sweet guy in Joe, but there's also a horrific murderer. I think that's maybe true for some serial killers or psychopaths. You know, but it's difficult to kind of think about. But yeah, that's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. Been thinking way more about that than doing my current essay, my university essay, which is due tomorrow. Don't worry, I have actually I finished it before doing this. But yeah, I devote not nearly enough mental energy to university work, but it seems to be fine. So my mantra is I don't work very hard, I work very smart. So it never feels like I'm doing a lot, but I'm always doing what I need to do to get the grades that I need. Not need, the grades that I want. But yeah, another thing I've been thinking about a lot recently is technology addiction, and thinking about when I was at school, a speaker came in to talk to us about technology, and he basically said that you should really only spend 2 hours a day max on screens, using screens, and any more than that actually has quite harmful effects on your brain. And technology can like activate the same sort of responses in your brain as like drugs can, so you can become addicted to technology in the same way you could be addicted to like cocaine, or I think it's probably not as much, but it's still triggering the same part of your brain. And he was kind of warning us against that, making us a bit more aware of our screen time. And like back at school, I didn't really, I took it on board, and obviously I still remembered it, but it didn't really it wasn't really useful information in the sense, because I never really spent more than 2 hours a day on technology anyway, because I was at school most of the day, writing in books, reading books, very occasionally going on computers, but never for very long. And then in break times I would just be chatting to my friends, and like we didn't really go on our phones, we would just be chatting, but increasingly since then, at college, started to use computers a bit more to do essays, like coursework. I got a better phone, I started using Spotify. It starts to kind of increase. Now at uni, like I've got an incredible phone, at least for my standards, it's incredible. It's not the latest that's available, but it's for me, it's blown my mind. Facial recognition, all this stuff, it's so easy to use technology now, and that makes it very difficult to kind of put down, because you think, I've got an unlimited world of entertainment and knowledge and information. Why would I ever put that down? But the answer to that is, well, because overuse is just bad for you. It's not good. And I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and about how, since the pandemic hit, with the first lockdown in particular, I think human addiction to technology has only increased. That's definitely true in my life. Like I noticed that in the first lockdown, which I can't believe was almost 2 years ago, but it was. And I had to check myself during that lockdown, because I thought, no, this is not right. Like I need to read, I need to do something else, because I felt I was becoming more anxious, and my kind of negative mental health kind of feelings were increasing. And I've sort of noticed that again recently, because since coming to uni, like especially like the last 2 years, it's almost all been online. And even if you're in a seminar or something, you're still using a laptop. You're still, there's a screen there, or you're looking at a PowerPoint thing that someone's put up on a screen. And so so I'm using that for my course, and then in my spare time, in my free time, I'm using it for leisure. And that's not okay. And I'm definitely thinking, like, when I finish uni, it will just naturally improve, because the jobs that I'm looking to kind of do in the next year or two, they won't involve screens. So that will definitely be good. And so I recognise that some of it is just kind of my current life setup, but it's still something I could improve on, and I think you probably could as well. I think we all can do better. It's something we all need to be watching ourselves about. Does that make sense? It's something we all need to be kind of thinking about a bit more, considering, and just being more aware. And that would kind of be my essential message, is try and stick to that 2-hour rule if you can. Obviously, if you work with computers or with screens as part of your job, that just sucks. But then try and make sure in your spare time you're reading more, or you're doing something that's not involving a screen. Because try and take up an activity that doesn't involve a screen, because it will definitely be healthier for you. Like for me, recently I found myself feeling more anxious. Feelings of depression can be exacerbated by technology. I think that's just demonstrably true. And so obviously, if you want to help yourself with that, if you've got mental health issues, then cutting down on technology just will help, as well as things like diet and sleep and relationships and things like that. They all help. But I went for a walk today and it was lovely. I just walked around and just listened to a bit of music, but mostly I was just talking to myself, literally talking like I am now to myself, walking around. Obviously I wasn't doing it in front of people, I was kind of alone, but that really is quite helpful for me to do. I've been doing that my whole life, just being in an empty space and just chatting to myself, just airing my thoughts, not like having a conversation like, oh, how are you? Oh yeah, I'm good. Not that, but just like I'm doing now, but just without a camera. If a camera was to follow me around on these walks, you'd get a lot of this. I would then just direct it at a camera, which I think is why I find it's quite easy to talk to a camera, uninterruptedly. Like I just I'm used to it now because I've been doing these weekly vlogs for a little while now, but even when I started, I didn't feel that it was necessarily difficult, because I'm always translating my thoughts into speech anyway, and I've been doing that for well over a decade, so it comes very naturally to me. But I'm a bit tired now, because this is kind of the second time I've run through this vlog, but I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoy this new setup. I figured it would just be better. I was a bit bored of the phone format, even though it was quite like a FaceTime cute sort of vibe. And it was it was quite easy to kind of upload. You just go, I've got the video, and just blah blah blah. But I think this will be better. I'm gonna end it there. I pray that you're well, and if you're not, always feel free to reach out to me or to somebody else. It's always important to reach out if you're not feeling great. And even if you are feeling great, share that with people in your life. Don't think, I'm just going to hold on to my happiness to myself. Share it. Let other people enjoy your light. If you've had a great week, comment why has your week been so great? What are your thoughts about the show? What are your thoughts about relationships in today's social media kind of world? Let me know anything that you're thinking. I'm always intrigued to find out. Not a lot of people comment on my videos, because not a lot of people watch them. But if you have watched this, leave a comment. Why not? I will definitely reply. I'm going to leave you with a song that I'm not going to play you on. I think it's just going to be a recommendation. It's a song that I've been recommending to a lot of people recently, but it's a song called No More Empty Words by The Thrills. It's on their album Teenager, which I've spoken about in a previous video. But No More Empty Words by The Thrills. It's a great little tune, very interesting lyrics. But I'm going to leave you with that. So go listen to that, and hope you enjoy it, and check out more of The Thrills, because they're fucking amazing. I'm going to try and make this work and put it out today. I don't think it'll be too hard, but I guess I'll just have to see. Yes, God bless, and I hope that your next week, it's a Wednesday, isn't it? I hope the rest of your week is good. and that you find what you're looking for, and that you get what you need, and that you allow yourself to have what you need. Yes. Anyway, farewell.